What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Chuds BBQ. My name is Bradley Robinson, and today I'm going to show you how I made this. Beautiful, delicious, smoky, beefy, cheesy, amazing smoked brisket chopped cheese. That's right, folks, we cooked a brisket to perfection, made some lovely buns, and stuffed this sandwich full of veg, cheese, beef, and I think we're going to find out if I'm going to die immediately after eating this. Coming up! This is a brisket. Pat it dry. And what I got here is a USDA Prime brisket. Picked this up at my local grocery store, weighing in right around 13 pounds and looking pretty flat. But all in all, pretty decent looking brisket. But first thing we gotta do, as always, is trim this up, starting with this big chunk of fat on the backside. Just find the natural seam and scoop her out of there. Beautiful. Don't need that. And come around and smooth out any knife marks. And start shaping up this side. You can see we got a lot of fat right here, so just kind of doing a straight line going down. Beautiful. Tapering the edges. Tackle some of the silver skin on the underside. Just trying to make everything look nice and pretty. Looking good enough for me. To the top. Again, very minimal point meat on this, so I think I'm going to start by just knocking down this fat cap until I definitely scalp it. Just a nice healthy layer of fat, folks, because we want some fat, but not too much fat. And on an odd shaped brisket like this, really you just kind of have to go layer by layer, because it's a little difficult for me to tell how much fat is actually on this, because again, the point is so flat. Chud scrape, pretty happy with that. And now onto this side over here, we got a pretty lopsided point, so I'm just gonna kind of square this up a little bit. I know we got a big pocket of fat right around here somewhere. Looking good. We got this kind of pointy end. That's why they call it the point. I'm gonna just kind of round this off. Just trying to give it some good shape and just make this brisket a little bit smaller. That means it'll cook quicker. But you know what I mean when you have one of these points that like really hangs over instead of the nice defined. Usually there's a huge chunk of lean right here, but not on this one. So far we're looking pretty good. Now I'm just gonna shorten it up a little bit, kind of swoop off this really thin part of lean and give our brisket some overall good shape. Save that for burgers and or sausage. Round off this corner. Take this fat down just a little bit, but really not much to it. Pretty good shape on that, good looking brisket. Underside looks good. All in all, pretty unique looking brisket, but it should cook up just fine. So I think it's time to get this thing seasoned up. For our rub today, I'm going on with some good old-fashioned Chuds BBQ SPG. Very simple rub, salt, pepper, garlic, but you can do whatever you like. I just like this one because it's really heavy pepper content, so we can make sure to get on with a lot of this stuff. And I don't think I've ever over-seasoned a brisket using an SPG like this. Really takes the guesswork out of it. It makes for a really nice, quick-forming bark. Flip it over, hit the bottom, and please, folks, don't forget the sides, because it's not just about bark, it's about saltiness. Big piece of meat, needs a lot of salt. Beautiful, that is looking perfectly seasoned to me, so let's go ahead and fire up the pit. That was my boot, snake, and boogie. And on the pit we go. Rocking a classic post oak fire today. Gonna put the brisket on right about, looking nice and flat, nice and aerodynamic. And I'm gonna start out around 250 for the first hour or two, get some good smoke flavor on there. Then we'll probably bump it up to around 275 and just keep it cooking until it's time to wrap. So we'll check back in on this in a little bit. So I'm trying something a little bit different with this cook. As you can see, the fire is on its way up. We're not even to 150 degrees yet, which is how I usually start my brisket cooks. Mostly just because I'm lazy and I don't want to wait for the pit to come up to temp to throw it on. And we get a little extra smoke that way while the pit's on its way up. But the reason we have so much smoke coming out is because right when I lit the fire, I started chunking in some pieces of fat that we just trimmed off the brisket. So what looks like really thick, dirty wood smoke smells a lot more like direct heat barbecue smoke. So I'll let you know if I can taste it at the end, but figured I'd keep you posted. All right, yo, we are about 8 hours into this brisket cook, and it's time to see what we're looking at. And so far, the bark is looking really nice, good shape on it, feels pretty good. Definitely need to do a little more render on that fat cap, but let's see what we're reading just for funsies here. Ooh, that feels really tight. Says it's 178. Upper lean, yeah, about 184, about 180 in the back as well. So I think it's just about time to wrap that thing up. Ooh, Ooh, that's hot. Good looking brisket though, nice and barky, not too much to complain about. Smelling good. It's kind of got that chocolatey weird smell that people talk about with brisket. If you ever notice it, you'll never forget it, but smells good, looks good. We're gonna give it the old foil boat. Beautiful, just trying to protect this point of the lean that can get really dry. Make sure that's nice and tight, high rimmed, that way this fat cap can continue to render down because it does feel a little tight on top. And also, the point was temping pretty high, the tip of the lean was temping pretty high, but right in the middle, especially in that thick part of the lean, was what was dragging. So I think the boat is gonna help that a lot when it starts collecting some of the juices, and the foil will help send some more heat its direction. So back on the pit this goes, probably gonna be rocking around 300 degrees for the next hour or so until this thing is probing like butter. And just like that, 11 hours and like 15 minutes on this cook. Really not bad for a brisket, but this is a pretty cute, petite little brisket, but feeling very nice and rendered, probing nice and tender, reading right around 200 degrees, 202. Oh, show me 203. There it is, but mostly just feeling nice and tender. So I'm gonna pop this onto a tray, just like this, and I'm gonna let this rest down to about 150 degrees, and then into my toaster oven it goes overnight at 150 degrees to rest, nice and long overnight to make sure everything is nice and tender, but also because it is 12 o'clock right now and it's time for bed. So I'll see you tomorrow. Next up, let's go ahead and bust out some hoagies for these chopped cheese. Start them going into the stand mixer with some water, our yeast, our sugar, our bread flour, some Diastatic malt powder, some kosher salt, and some Wagyu beef tallow from my friends over at South Chicago Packing. Gotta love them. And we're gonna need this for like 6 to 8 minutes. Beautiful, out it comes. Beautiful dough, not too sticky, nice and smooth though. But now into a greased bowl this goes. Cover it in plastic wrap and I'm gonna let this rise for the next hour to hour and 1/2. 1 hour later, our dough has doubled in size. So now, out it comes. Boop. And first thing I'm gonna do is weigh this out. And now I'm gonna portion this out into 4 equal size pieces. And then we're gonna tuck all the seams underneath into a nice little ball. And now I'm gonna let these rest for about 10 minutes to let that gluten relax a little bit. After about 15 minutes, it is time to roll these out. So what I'm gonna do is flip this over so it's on the smooth side, and I'm gonna roll this out with a rolling pin. That's just gonna give us a tighter crumb because, as you can hear, just popping all the air bubbles in there for that nice squishy roll. And once rolled out, we're now gonna just roll it up into a tube. Beautiful, flip it over so we can pinch that seam shut on the underside. Get the end closed as well. And then seam side on the bottom, we're gonna just roll this out until it's the same width as our sheet tray. And then onto the sheet tray we go. Got my non-stick mat down there to make sure nothing sticks. But you could always put this on parchment paper. You lay down some cornmeal too if you wanted to have that kind of dusted bottom, but that's it. Now it's time to repeat. I gotta say, this is an incredibly satisfying dough to work with. Very easy. Just rolls up so nice. Perfect amount of tackiness. And just like that, all rolled out, I'm just gonna go through and pat these down a little bit so they're a little wider as opposed to taller. And hopefully this tray is big enough so they don't all stick together. But even if they do, I don't think that's gonna be a big deal. So now I'm gonna cover this in greased plastic wrap and let it rise for about probably 45 minutes. After a nice rise, these are looking just perfect. I mean, come on, folks. But now I'm gonna score them with this bread razor situation. Just go whoop. Not my cleanest cut. Oh, that one was even worse. You know, it does help if you put this in the fridge or the freezer for like 5-10 minutes before you do this step, but I didn't do that, and now the bread's gonna look like butt. All right, folks, I got my oven preheated to 450 degrees. We're cooking these hot and fast, and before they go in, I'm gonna spray them with some water. That's because we're after a really thin, kind of shattery crust to complement the nice squishy bread beneath. And the water's gonna help them spring in the oven as well as slow the browning a little bit because we're cooking so hot and fast. I'm also gonna pitch a couple of ice cubes into the bottom of my oven to create extra steam to make sure these cook up nice and beautifully. So I'll see you in about 15-20 minutes. And just like that, out of the oven these come, looking absolutely beautiful. I mean, come on. I definitely made these a little too big. Probably let them proof a little long. I forgot I wasn't making an Italian beef like I did the other day. But they're really nice and soft and squishy, so I think it'll squish down pretty well. But I'm gonna let these cool down on this rack for just a little bit. And at long last, I think it's time to see how this brisket came out. And I did take the foil boat and wrap it over the top last night in an effort to make my house not smell like brisket, which is another convenient thing about the foil boat. But out this thing comes. Oops. Oh no. Oh, he's making a mess. But looking good, nice and barky, smelling real nice. But let's go ahead and cut this little bad boy in half. Still got that crispy bark. Ooh, take a look at the lean over here, looking nice and juicy. Good fat render right there. Good smoke ring. It's good brisket, folks. Come on. Zip these burn ends off, shall we? Beautiful little burn end. Love the crispy bark on this bad boy. My favorite slice of brisket. Looking nice and juicy. Wow, we even got a smoke ring on the top. That's kind of cool. I'd say that is a good looking piece of brisket right there. Good render, nothing's too charred, nothing's really shredding or anything, and good render on that middle fat too. Nice and juicy. 1, 2, 3. So this would be the 4th slice, huh? Not gonna tallow it or anything. All right, Leonard, if you ever see this, rank it. I'd say that looks pretty good. Oops, nice and tender. It's a good looking brisket. I tried a little bit harder than normal on this. Although it's tough when you know you're turning it into a chopped beef sandwich to really put the effort in. Still looking juicy, but while we're here. Oh, that was so good. Nice and smoky, perfectly seasoned. Bark is there. Very nice and juicy. You know it is. I'm getting a little different smoke flavor from all the fat I threw in that fire, but really nothing to write home about. But a nice little addition of complexity. Burn end. Oh, no. I want to ring the bell just for that. Damn, that is good. I miss the old days when this would be the end of the video, you know, just cooking a brisket. But either way, it's fun to cook one again. Oh, my God. So juicy. But I'm just going to keep slicing this up, get a couple slices for this chopped cheese. And that is slicing like a dream. Couple slices of fatty, couple slices of lean. I don't know how much chopped beef I'm gonna need, so we'll start with that. We can always come back for more. Oh, I'm curious. I haven't had a good slice of actual lean in a long time. Looks pretty good. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Boop. Oh, whoa, that's good. Very flavorful. All right, definitely picking up on a whisper of dirty smoke on that. Not bad though. And I suppose you could go Philly cheesesteak style and just put this on the griddle and chop it up with your spatula, but I'm just gonna save some time. Beautiful looking bread. Cut that one a little too deep. All right, y'all, to get started on these brisket chopped cheese sandwiches, I've got the beautiful plancha, AKA flat top from Made In. This thing is awesome. I love this griddle for whenever I need something that's bigger than the Chud press. But to start out, we're gonna get our onions going. So I'm going down with some South Chicago Packing Wagyu beef spray. Ooh, and a healthy amount of onions. And because our brisket is already cooked and we're not cooking it like a traditional chopped cheese where we're cooking a burger patty, I want to give these onions a good head start because that brisket we're really just trying to crisp up a little bit and warm through. Hit that with a nice big fat pinch of salt. I went for a bit of a rougher chop on this chopped cheese than I did last time. That's because I want it to be a little bit sweet and cooked down, but still have some texture and a little bit of bite to it. And that's about the color I'm looking for, so now down we go with our brisket. Gotta spread this out a little bit. Yep, I made way too much, per usual. But just get this cooked down, get that fat starting to melt, get everything incorporated, and get a little bit of crisp on this brisket, kind of like carnitas. Oh, as the light hits it, I gotta tell you folks, the smell right now is absolutely incredible. Still wondering why I made so much. All right, y'all, this is looking pretty good. I'm just kind of eyeballing the amount that would be reasonable for one of these half sandwiches here. We're getting some nice crispiness, smelling really good. So now it's time for the cheese portion of the chopped cheese, which has got to be some good old-fashioned classic American. So I'm just gonna let that melt for a second. And in my opinion, I think the cheese should stay like this because it holds everything together and makes it a little easier to transport to the sandwich. But you know, it is called a chopped cheese, so just gonna use that as glue to glue everything together. Oh my God, this is ridiculous. Gluttony at its finest right here, folks. Well, if we're going in, we might as well go for it. Well, another piece of cheese. And while all that cheese starts melting everything together, let's go ahead and get this thing started. Starting by going on the bottom with a nice healthy smear of our beautiful homemade barbecue sauce. Made this in the Volcano Shanks episode, and it's really good. Highly recommend trying it out. And then in chopped cheese fashion, the top one gets some mayonnaise. Not necessarily traditional for a barbecue sandwich, but I think it'll be good. Just gonna use the same spoon here. Beautiful. And now on with our behemoth of brisket and cheese and onions. Kind of smells like a corned beef hash. Interesting. But we're not done yet, folks. So next up, we're going down with some beautiful shred lead. Hashtag shreddis. This is just some iceberg lettuce. Traditional on a chopped cheese. There is something that feels really wrong about this, but the veg makes me feel a little bit better about it. Next up, down with some tomatoes. Unless, of course, you're not a tomato fan, then don't. But I think it'll add some nice juiciness and brightness. Lovely. And then, last but not least, because it's a cheeseburger meets barbecue sandwich, we'll go down with some homemade pickles. Love it. And it's not a bodega sandwich unless we wrap it all up. Oh, good Lord. Nice and tight. And there it is, folks. We're gonna let that steam in the paper for a bit, and our barbecue chopped cheese is ready. I'm making another one, and I just kind of want to stop right there. I mean, just look how gooey it looks. Oh, so beautiful. All right, let's see how this thing came out. Oh, and there it is, folks. The barbecue chopped cheese sandwich, the brisket chopped cheese, and that's looking really nice and melty. I mean, what's not to like here, folks? Beautiful smoked brisket stuffed in some homemade bread with cheese and veg, and yeah, I'm ready to find out how it came out. Just sliced into the second one, and I know this might be the most gluttonous thing I've ever made on this channel, but I want you to look me in the eye and tell me that you wouldn't take a big juicy bite out of that. I mean, come on, folks. All right, I'm going for it. Ooh, everything looks so much better after it's been wrapped and steamed. Bottoms up. Whoa, whoa, that is really good. Surprisingly not as rich as you'd think. Granted, I did get a big bite of tomato in there. Hi. Hi. Would you like to try a sandwich that I'm not going to tell you what it is?
Oh my God, I'm so full.
All right, one bite, come on.
Oof, okay, for the channel. Okay, that was good.
Yeah.
That was good. Is that like a brisket chopped cheese?
Did you know that?
No.
Yep, it's a brisket chopped cheese. You nailed it. On a scale of 1 to diarrhea, how would you rank this sandwich? Because the concept sounds like I'm going to change my shorts. But with the few bites I've had, it eats not nearly as death as you'd think.
Yeah, no. The pickles and the tomato, the vegetables really help, help balance it out.
Yeah.
But I feel like it tastes just like the chopped cheese, but with a hint of, like, you do get that brisket flavor in it.
Yeah, brisket flavor, that barbecue smoke. I like it.
I like it a lot.
Oh, that was so good. That bite had a lot of cheese, and I liked it.
Come on, boys, let's get back to work.
I'll meet you down at the station.
Choo-choo, boys.
All aboard. I was going to do that anyway, because that's how I approve of food now, is if it gets a bell.
I like that.
Not everything gets a bell. This gets a bell. That's really good.
Yeah, I would bell that for sure.
Ah, the bread is so soft. The meat is just so succulent.
It is really good. It's like,
Yeah, it's like chopped beef, but gooey because of the American cheese. I'm going to eat more.
pretty good one.
This is one of those videos where I thought of the idea, a brisket chopped cheese. My first thought was, ew, who's ever wanted to put American cheese on a brisket? But now that I'm staring it down the face, my mind has changed, you know? Something about the freshly baked bread with the lettuce and the tomato all just helps cut the super richness of the brisket and the cheese, and the flavors all work really well. And it's a super fun sandwich to eat, you know? This is like Philly cheesesteak territory, but really makes for a fantastic bite. Oh, that is so good. Also, the barbecue sauce mayo combo, I might have to try that on something else because that's actually working really well. I'm probably going to knock out another one of these, which I definitely shouldn't do, but as far as this side is concerned, with this very last bite, I think it's time for the official taste test. Maybe it's because I toasted the brisket in the pan and a lot of fat came out, so it's not as heavy, but I don't know. You just got to make this one. All right, y'all, and that is it. That is how to make an absolutely fantastic smoky barbecue beef brisket chopped cheese sandwich. I highly recommend giving this one a try. You know, it's all the same flavors of a really good cheeseburger, but you swap out the beef patty for a brisket and then serve it on a hoagie, and it all adds up to a really good bite. And this is definitely something I'll be making again. Maybe not very soon, but at some point. But all that being said, if you enjoyed this video, let me know by hitting that subscribe button. Let YouTube know by dropping a like on this video. If you give this recipe a try for yourself, be sure to tag me on Instagram at Chuds BBQ. I'd love to see what y'all are cooking. Big shout out to all the Patreon members. Thank you for supporting Team Chud and allowing me to keep making all these videos. And until the next time I see you, please go cook something outside. Peace.